Hi everyone, it's Nikki, and I just completed yesterday my 21-day water fast. I started August the 26th, completed it yesterday. Actually did 514 hours, so a little more than 21 days. I started out doing day by day videos, and then I realized that it was not like a previous 21-day water fast that I did, and a lot of the symptoms were not changing, and I felt weird just saying every day feeling great, and there was no change in symptoms. So I decided to just do one video kind of going over the whole 21 days of symptoms and things that I experienced. The first few days I had like more of a mild kind of headache. Of course, felt hunger, but it was nowhere near the negative symptoms that I had, or more like withdrawal symptoms that I had the first time I did a 21 water day fast, which was like 6 years ago was the last time I did it. I think that's because for the past few weeks I'd already been doing keto, and so I was already kind of in a better space to transition more easily into doing a 21-day water fast. So that was a little bit easier. After about 4 days, I didn't have like hunger anyway, so I did feel really good from day 4 all the way through until I finished yesterday as far as not feeling any hunger. I would say that on the list of symptoms that I experienced throughout, other than the mild headache, off and on I had a mild headache, not anything drastic. I also experienced off and on energy, like highs, and then sometimes it would be lower. I would feel really great, and then I would push myself too much, and then I'd have to scale it back. So that was kind of an ebb and flow of energy that persisted throughout the entire time, I would say. Something else that I experienced is, and I only experience this like when I'm water fasting, but I get a heightened sense of smell, and I mean just really acute, whether it's smells that are really good that just like are amazing, or smells that are really horrific, which make it unbearable to me. And so that's something that always happens when I'm fasting. I just get this really, really attuned sense of smell. And along with smell, I smelled after a little bit of detoxing and everything like that. I became like unbearable to myself. And that's even with taking like multiple different showers and everything like that. It just came down to I could very much smell the detoxing and everything coming from my body, as far as my body healing and everything. It was so bad to me that it just, I couldn't even sleep sometimes without having to get up and take a shower, because it was just unpleasant. And I'm glad that I work remotely. But yeah, so definitely the smell on me, I would say. I also had a little bit of a breakout, not too much, but even here, there's like a bump. You don't know if you can still see it, but there's like a bump there, and I have a tiny one here. So a little bit of breakout, I would say, I had as well. Other symptoms, or I would say more of the more kind of disturbing symptoms I had, would be the fact that it really started, I would say, about day 18 or so, and that is just feeling incredibly sick to my stomach. Just like I could throw up any minute. Horrible nausea that I've been experiencing. And even though I broke my fast yesterday, I'm still experiencing it. Having a little bit of pickle juice helped me, or it helps me for a little while, but I'm definitely looking forward to that go away. So I would say that would be kind of the worst symptom that I experience, would be this feeling of being sick to my stomach. As far as the difference between then and now, the last time I did a water fast, I experienced like swelling in my feet. I had some like heart palpitations. It was not a very pleasant experience. And while those things kind of went away as I started to have electrolytes, and my last fast, it was much different this time. Like I didn't experience all of those things. And I also, by the way, did use electrolytes. So I used like a keto version where it was just calcium, potassium, magnesium, and then very small amounts of sodium. So I also had pink Himalayan salt because I want to do it as safely as possible for me. As far as things that changed during it, well, I was pre-diabetic. Well, I was diabetic and then brought it down to a pre-diabetic level. And so that's kind of where I started when I was at a I don't know, I could have been at a diabetic level thinking about my blood sugars now, but I hadn't been tested in a while. So diabetic. And so I had to keep an eye on my blood sugar, of course, very important. I said if I dropped below 70, then I would discontinue as far as my blood sugar dropping that low, being diabetic. And so I started out with mainly like blood sugars in the 140s and stuff like that, fasting before I started, and they got down as low as 75 for a couple of times in which I was concerned I'd have to stop, but then they went up to like between the 80s and 90s, and so that's where I kind of rested for the majority of my fast, was my blood sugar being in the early 80s to at the very highest, I think I was 100 once, but like between the low 80s to like 95 to 99, somewhere in there. So it all depended. As far as blood pressure, my blood pressure in the beginning of the year, it was really high, like at some triple digit numbers in the bottom. It was really high. And so my blood pressure right before I started, though, could get higher. Like it could be, my diastolic could be somewhere in the 90s, so anywhere between 80 to like 95 for my diastolic. I think once it was 114. So to my systolic being like maybe anywhere from 130 to 140 something. So it all kind of really depended. During my fast, it dropped down, and it was kind of depend on the day, stress, all this stuff, it was kind of all over. So it could have been anywhere as low, I think, that I saw was maybe either 80 something or 90 something, over 60 something, to, I think the highest that I had during that time was maybe around 110 over 80, maybe a little bit higher. I was under a lot of stress one day, and so I noticed that went up even more so when I was really stressed. But for the most part, all of those numbers went down. As far as my weight goes, my weight before I started, or that I first recorded, was 353 is what it was. And then it went down to, on the final day, I got down to 333.6 was where I ended at. And I've fasted off and on before, and I even did a 14-day water fast where I lost like 37 pounds. But then I was doing a lot more activity, a lot more walking and things like this. I, for the most part, did not do all of that unless I was like walking to deliver somebody's food, because I do that as like a side job, delivering food. Other than that, I did not do much activity. I kind of took it easy the whole time. Also, the last time I started, I had been eating a lot of junk food, and so I think I also had been retaining more water. And so, like I said, I had been doing keto for a few weeks before I started, and so I don't think that I had as much water retention as I did the last time to show such huge drops in my weight. So yeah, so that's where I ended up at, was 333.6. I will kind of show a video of, like videos and pictures of kind of where I started and everything like that. But for the most part, that was my fast. That's kind of the things that I experienced throughout it. And right now I'm in my refeeding stage, as you may have known, or maybe you don't, but it's very important how you go about refeeding yourself, because if you do it the wrong way, you could hurt yourself or feel incredibly uncomfortable, or worse, damage yourself. And I know from experience of not breaking a longer fast properly that I felt like my guts were twisted in knots, and it was just a horrible, horrible feeling. So I am doing, since I fasted for 21 days, I am doing kind of a slow progression into eating again and going back to intermittent fasting. So I'm not concerned so much the time windows now. I'm just, having stuff as I want to. And then after I go through this transitional refeeding process, then I'll go back into like my actual time for eating. So the first 3 days, what I'm doing is I made some homemade bone broth. And so I have a couple of kinds that I made. One was more focused because I like pho, and so one was that kind of flavor that I did with like gingers and like anise and all these amazing smells and everything like that. And the other one was more basic for me, like using bone marrow and just more simple like flavors and stuff like that. So not too many ingredients in that one. And so that's what I'm having for the first 3 days. I also have a whole bunch of like pre-made organic like chicken broth. And so I will use that after these first few days. But the first 3 days, it's broth, it's teas and things like that. Spices, introducing more spices and things like that after the first 3 days. Then it's going to be a couple of days where I have the same thing, my broths and everything like that. Oh, also, sorry, probiotic liquids. So a little bit of pickle juice, a little bit of sauerkraut juices, stuff like this to kind of wake up my digestive system again and kind of get the healthy bacteria and everything like that going as well. So the next few days after that, there's going to be the same thing where I'm going to have my my broths and my like prebiotic juices and teas, but then I'm going to add in some protein shakes as well. Excuse me. So I'll have protein shakes in there also. And that will be for another couple of days, and then after that, it'll be more pureed foods and everything like that I'll add after a few more days. So it'll be, pureed vegetables, pureed meats, things like that before I get into things that are solid. So I'm taking it very, very slow. And like I said, I'm still feeling incredibly sick to my stomach. So I'm not able to even like eat a whole bunch of stuff right now. I have had about like 32 ounces of bone broth a day. And so that's kind of where I'm at about is how much bone broth I'm drinking. During this time, and so I'm hoping to feel better soon, but that's kind of where I'm at and what happened. And I'll show like some videos and some pictures and things like I said, but if you have any questions, I can only give you my experience of what I happened to go through, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. But thank you so much for watching.